Hey everyone, Mr. Harvey here. Let's get started with our lecture today. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, all right? As opposed to me lecturing on historical content or historical developments, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be focusing and lecturing and talking about skill. Specifically, we are going to be talking about the long essay question portion of the AP European History exam, otherwise known as the LEQ. So let's get into it. All right, the LEQ, ladies and gentlemen, is the very last portion of the AP exam. And you are required to answer one long essay question on the exam. You're going to have 40 minutes to do this, and it's worth 15% of your total score. Now, let's review, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, each portion of the AP exam, okay, is weighted differently. All right, remember, the multiple choice, which is the very first portion of the AP exam, is worth 40% of your total score. The SAQ portion, which is the second part of the AP exam, is worth 20%. So the multiple choice is worth 40%, SAQ worth 20% of your total score. Then you have a break. Think like 5-10 minute break. All right. After you come back from break, you're going to start the DBQ, which is worth 25% of your total score. All right. Then we have the LEQ, which is worth 15% of your total score. Now, the LEQ and DBQ have some similarities and differences, and I want to address them really quickly before I move on, okay? Both of them are essays, okay? Relatively, right, 5 paragraphs, that's ideal, all right? But there's some key differences, okay? With the LEQ, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a huge difference between the LEQ and DBQ, is you are going to have choices, okay, on the AP exam, okay? On the AP exam, you are going to have the choice between 3 prompts, and you're going to pick one to write about. On the DBQ, you get 1 prompt, and that's what you have to write about. Okay. Another difference between the LEQ and DBQ is that the DBQ has documents. DBQ, document-based question. LEQ, long essay question. LEQ does not have documents. So all the information, all the evidence that you're going to need to support the prompt, talk about the prompt, okay, is going to need to come from yourself, come from your brain. Okay, so those are some key similarities and differences between the two. Okay, so that on the LEQ, you're going to have choice. You're going to get 3 topics, 3 prompts. You pick one to write about. Now, on the LEQ, ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 different types of LEQs that can show up on the AP exam. Okay, and each of these types is based on a skill that we've been talking about throughout the year, ladies and gentlemen. So the first type of LEQ that you can see is a compare and contrast LEQ. That's a skill that we've been talking about throughout the years so far. Okay. The second type of LEQ that you can see, ladies and gentlemen, is a change in continuity over time. And the third type of LEQ that you can see on the AP exam, ladies and gentlemen, is causation. Now, you all might be wondering, wait, so you just said we get 3 choices and there's 3 different skills. Does that mean that each choice on the AP exam could be a different skill? The answer is no, okay? What the College Board, the AP exam, is going to do is they're going to pick 1 skill, and they're going to give you 3 prompts related to that 1 skill. So, for example, on the AP exam, you might see 3 prompts relating to causation. So the first prompt could be, analyze and explain the various causes and effects of the French Revolution, right? And that could be prompt 1. The second prompt could be analyze the various causes and effects of World War I, and that could be prompt 2. And then prompt 3 could be analyze the various causes and effects of Protestant Reformation or the Renaissance, right? So you're going to get 1 skill and 3 different prompts related to that skill, and you're going to pick one to write about. Okay, so that's kind of how the LEQ is going to look, and we're going to be practicing that for the rest of the year. All right, but so the LEQ is, and there's 3 different types. 3 different skills that we're going to really need to practice writing, especially in the context of the LEQ, which is compare and contrast, continuity and change, and causation. Okay, and we're going to kind of go through each skill holistically and review that really quickly within this lecture, and then we're going to eventually in class we're going to be preparing to write about these. Okay, so the first skill that you need to be aware of, right, is compare and contrast, and this is the official College Board kind of definition about this skill, and I don't want people to get really overwhelmed by this. Just, break it down simply, compare and contrast, and being able to compare and contrast different things related to AP Euro and be able to write about it. Okay, but this is their kind of official, the College Board's official definition of the skill, and they define it as the ability to describe, compare, and evaluate developments within one society. So, the ability to, for example, within the French Revolution, maybe be able to compare and contrast different, the different happenings or different effects between the liberal phase versus the radical phase of the French Revolution. Okay. So within one society, the ability to describe, compare, and evaluate developments across or between different societies. So maybe different effects of the French Revolution on Prussia versus Russia, and in various chronological and geographical contexts. Okay. Now, an interesting note, and this doesn't necessarily quite relate to LEQs, but this relates to multiple choice and SAQs. And DBQs, is this also may include comparisons and evaluations of historical perspectives. And so, looking at different documents, being able to look at different perspectives and how that perspective might relate to a specific event in history. So, for example, looking at the British perspective versus the German perspective of World War I, and how that might influence, and how being able to compare and contrast and talk about those different perspectives, or being able to look at different historians and their different perspectives of something. Okay, so being aware of comparing and contrasting perspectives is important within compare and contrast. Okay. So the College Board defines this as students should be able to compare developments across place, time, and societies, and be able to explain and evaluate different perspectives on a given historical phenomena. And we're going to be practicing this throughout the rest of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. The second skill that they are going to that is going to show up on the AP exam within the LEQ that you're going to need to know is continuity and change. And so this is the ability to recognize, analyze, and evaluate the dynamics of historical continuity and change over periods of time of varying length, as well as the ability to relate these patterns to larger historical processes or themes. So, for example, looking at continuity and change for women in the 1600s and 1700s, or looking for periods continuity and change for specific social classes, groups, during the Industrial Revolution or during World War I, right? Being able to be aware of continuity and change. Okay, and that's something we're going to be practicing. We have been practicing, but that's going to be something you will need to write about. You may be tested on with the AP exam when it comes to LEQ. And so they say that students should be able to analyze and evaluate historical patterns of continuity and change over time, and connect these patterns of continuity and change to larger historical processes or themes. The last skill, and this is a skill that we have been really emphasizing in our class, is causation. And this is the ability to identify, analyze, and evaluate the relationships among multiple historical causes and effects, distinguishing between those of long-term and proximate, and among coincidence, causation, and correlation. So students should be able to compare cause and or effect, including between short-term and long-term effects, and short-term and long-term causes. Okay, analyze and evaluate the interaction of multiple causes and or effects, and assess historical contingency by distinguishing among coincidence, causation, and correlation. Okay, and this is something that we've been focused on throughout the year, ladies and gentlemen. We have been interacting with cause and effect regularly. Okay, so let's talk about how the LEQ is going to look, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to have an intro, very similar to a DBQ. We're going to have context, okay? And that last sentence or sentences, remember at least 1 to 2 sentences will be your thesis. And those are going to be very similar to the DBQ, and that's each worth 2 points on the LEQ. And I will be going through the rubric right after this PowerPoint. So you're going to have your first body paragraph for our class will be our body paragraph X, okay? We're going to have that topic sentence kind of relating to your thesis, and then you're going to get into your facts, examples, your explanation, and your discussion of that significance and discussion of that explanation, really using the evidence that you have in your brain to back up your thesis. Similarly, body paragraph 2, why, same thing, okay? You're going to have very similar to your the topic sentence, very similar to your thesis, and you're going to have specific examples, specific evidence, and explain that evidence and how it backs up your thesis, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, same thing for your Z. Topic sentence, examples, evidence, and you're explaining that evidence and how it proves your thesis. And then a conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to restate your thesis and then make a comparison. Okay, a synthesis, make a comparison. Okay, so here's our practice. This is what I want you all to practice, ladies and gentlemen, for our class. Okay, we're going to practice cause and effect, and here's a prompt that I came up with, and that we are going to work on together. Okay, which is to evaluate the various causes and effects of the 18th and 19th century French Revolution. So for my class, I would like you all to write an LEQ. Okay, try it. Okay, try it on your own, and we're gonna and practice. Give yourself 40 minutes and try to write one, and then we are going to take a look at a couple examples of an LEQs about this relating to this question, and kind of start our practice. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now that's it for this slideshow. But quickly, ladies and gentlemen, before I leave, I want to talk about the rubric and how you're graded on this. Okay, very important for us. Okay, so very similar. Here's the rubric right here, ladies and gentlemen. Very similar to the DBQ. Okay, remember, you get a point for having a thesis. All right, and remember, your thesis needs to respond to the prompt with a historical claim and establish that line of reasoning. Remember, that's really key within getting that point. Okay, context. All right, you get a point for that. All right. So you are going to describe the historical context relevant to the prompt. So what's going on? So for example, we have that question I just gave y'all, which is the French Revolution. Tell us what's going on. Okay, give us some information about this time period. What is going on? Okay, very important. All right, and remember, your context needs to be specific. Okay, specific context. Then we get into the kind of the majority of the points for the LEQ. And the LEQ is worth 6 points. The DBQ is worth 7 points. The LEQ is worth 6 points. Okay? So, for the evidence portion of the rubric, okay, you get 1 point for providing specific examples of evidence relevant to the topic. Okay? But you get 2 points for supporting an argument using that specific evidence. So if you are arguing that this proves that this was a cause of the French Revolution. This proves that you're taking that evidence and you're telling us, the reader, how this shows this is an effect or a cause of the French Revolution. That is having that argument is key, ladies and gentlemen, and relating that evidence back to your thesis is key in getting these points. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you have analysis and reasoning is worth 2 points, okay? You get 1 point for using historical reasoning, comparison, causation, changes in continuity over time, to frame or structure an argument that addresses the prompt. So the point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that you are using that skill. You are talking about that skill. That is a key component of your essay. You are making that an integral portion within your analysis and within your reasoning. Okay, that skill. You're focusing on that skill, whether it's comparison, causation, or continuity over change. And to get 2 points is the depth of your analysis of that when you're using that skill. Okay, they write, it demonstrates a complex understanding of the historical development. That is the focus of the prompt. So a complex understanding of causation, of comparison, of change and continuity over time, okay? And using that evidence to corroborate, qualify, or modify an argument, okay? So the depth of your explanation as you interact with that skill, okay? All right, this is really the depth, okay, of your analysis using that skill. Okay, so the LEQ, ladies and gentlemen, is worth 6 points, all right? And we are going to be practicing this in class. Okay, so take a look at that prompt that I gave you on the slideshow, ladies and gentlemen, and please start trying to time yourself and just see how far you get. And we are going to talk about that in class, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, and have a great day.